We appreciate everyone taking time out of their day for this discussion. We're going to go through, this is our second community call. We appreciate everyone's time. We're going to do a few things today. So we scheduled a little longer duration. My name is Lloyd Biddle, and I am the CEO and founder of Innovar Healthcare. At Innovar, our focus is centered around the BridgeLink and prior to the fork, Mirth, open source Mirth Connect product. We've been in this business for working with this platform for over 15 years. Well, since the inception, either as a customer or as an employee, or as an employee, and now as a company that's focused on the Mirth suite and now BridgeLink. So with that, I've got a few folks from Innovar on the phone. Daniel Svanstedt, are you online?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So Daniel is going to complete a couple of demos this morning. The first demo is going to be the Dynamic Lookup Gateway, which is something that we've been working pretty diligently on since we first discussed it, I don't know, about 3 months ago. And then he's also going to do a demo of the spec generator. So with that, I'm going to pass the control, stop presenting, and pass the control over to Daniel and let him move forward with our demo.
Great. So let me share my screen. So we just released, as of last week, the latest version of BridgeLink, which is 4.5.4. And the major new feature in this release is the Dynamic Lookup Gateway. And that is a data store that lets you create tables or groups that are like key value lookup tables or groups. So these can be static or dynamic. They can function as like just a lookup, or sit in front of an API as a cache. So this is the new UI that lets you manage your lookup groups. So you can click one we have here as an example. So this is a zip to county code lookup table. So you can see these are zip codes to a corresponding county code. So this is, you can create new groups here. As part of each group, you can define a caching strategy for your group. So you can define how much of your content, how many rows do you want to store in memory versus persist to a backend database. And you can say if it should be least recently used or first in, first out strategy as far as maintaining what's in the cache. And you can, of course, view what's in the cache here. So I can put a zip code in. Should be able to, I might not have loaded all the zip codes here. But so it's an easy search. You can import, export, add entries very easily. You can monitor history of imports, deletions, and edits to the groups within here. There's also robust API available for so externally manage your any kind of features around the Dynamic Lookup Gateway. So as you can see here, there's a lot of various APIs. You can do pretty much everything using the RESTful API as you could within BridgeLink itself. So
Daniel, let me just add one point on that topic, and that is, this allows for standardization of these these mappings across an entire organization, because as these are added, they're surfaced inside the org. And so we're dynamically changing the content of that, or the details of that spec based on, of that API based on how we manage it inside Mirth. That means, things like LOINC, that's where you want to standardize on your LOINC, or other values that you want to make available across the org. And that's a real power of this feature, is the ability to both call it within Mirth, but also surface it across the organization, or even external.
Yeah, thanks, Lloyd. That's a good point. So you could use this externally from BridgeLink, or update it or monitor it externally from BridgeLink. So, all right, let me go over a few demos. Just some pretty kind of simple examples how it could be used. Let me look at the initial one here. So this one, I am going to, I have a simple lookup group where we have provider information, and it's going to, in the channel, look for these 3 providers, and if it finds them, replace their information with like more details about those providers. So we can show you the code, what it looks like. So we have, this is the group, and it's looking for PV1, 7, 8, 9. Those are the 3 typical provider fields in PV1, and it's going to get the MPI, first name and last name, and put that into the message. So let me go. I have a message loaded here. Send that through. And so this is the raw message. You can see it's just this like local provider ID. And now we can see it has been replaced with an MPI and a first name and last name of these 3 providers. And we can, if you go to Lookup Manager, this is the kind of content that was stored in here. So this was like the local provider ID, and this is kind of the information we had available for each one. Second example is related to vaccination codes. So in this case, this is an example I've stumbled upon when doing like public health reporting. Some states, require NDC codes instead of CVX codes. So you have to do a translation within BridgeLink. I think the CDC publishes a mapping from CVX to NDC. So I have that loaded in a group. Let me see what that name was. CVX to NDC. So let's take a look at that first. What that looks like. So here, the key in this case is the CVX code, and the value is, we have the NDC code, the vaccine name. Also include the manufacturer and MVX code in here. So we can not only do a translation, but also enhance other data about the message we're getting. So let me grab an example message. I'm going to send that through. So this one has 2 vaccine. You can see it's 3 CVX code and 20 here. And I don't think it has any manufacturer code, so it should fill that in. Okay, this is the raw. And now we see here it's been replaced by the NDC code. These 2 spots, and also populated the manufacturer information here. And the next demo is kind of showcase how you could utilize this as a caching mechanism in front of role of an API. So let me, this is where I'm actually updating values in the map. So let's make sure we have it cleared out. And I think, okay, it's MPES cache. So let me clear that out first. Okay, and the example of what I'm doing here is that similar to like the first demo, I'm gonna extract some of the provider information, and I'm gonna do an API call to the NPI MPES API to where you can look up provider information. So I'm gonna basically try to locate these providers and get their MPI and additional information, and I'm gonna update the message with that from the API. And I'm also gonna store that in the Dynamic Lookup Gateway, so that if we have the same provider come across again, we first look at in our cache or in our Dynamic Lookup Gateway, so we can avoid making an additional API call. So this is a good way of kind of being more efficient, kind of performance optimization. You don't have to do unnecessary API calls, and you can avoid getting like rate limited as you can get on some APIs. Let me send one through. So in the initial one, we don't have any values, so it should actually call the API, which we have done. And I have some logging entries here, so you can say it's key not find, retrieving from MPES, so making the API call, and then it's adding it to the cache, and it's 3 providers. It's doing this 3 times. And we can see the overall execution time. I know MPES is pretty fast. It's pretty efficient still, 154 milliseconds. But if I send the same message through now, it should be less because we have it in well, let me show you. We have that in here now. So it's added these 3 entries. These are the 3 providers that was in the message. And I'm going to send the same message through again, and we should have a much lower processing time. But yeah, we can see here now it's 22 milliseconds instead. So it's a lot more efficient because you don't have to do this additional API calls. We do have the ability also specifying time to live. So when you're retrieving from the Dynamic Lookup Gateway, you can specify, if the entry is older than 1 hour or older than 24 hours, don't return anything. So you can have a way to basically see if your data is stale, it's been there a long time, which can be important for a cache, because you might want to retrieve the data if it's older than a certain time period. So the next demo is us showing you can use multiple groups. So I have 2 different groups, one for HOSP1 and one for HOSP2, and I'll show you my code. So I'm getting the group name by using MSH4 together with lookup _lookup. So if I go to my lookup gateway, you can see we have 2 different groups here. And as an example, I have 2 keys, one on code and test, and they're both present in both of them, but they're different values. So grab a message. So this is from hospital 1. Send that through, and we can see for hospital 1, we have hello world and value for hospital 1. So you can see that I'm just outputting that as the message itself, but so it's grabbing from group 1. And if I take the message from hosp 2, it should use different values in a different group and different values. So yeah, we're successfully using the other group here. So you could have dynamic multiple maps for the same input codes, but providing different values. I also wanted to showcase you can have really large data sets. So I imported the full loan code set. I think it's over 100,000 entries. We've tested code sets above 1 million. So this is actually not that big and should be handled fine. It does, import and export not instantly, but it's like a minute to import this code set. But once you use it, it's very, very quick. And it's also, efficient because of the caching mechanism we have. It doesn't have to, retrieve it from a database for the frequently used entries. So I have, as an example here, I have an ADT message with vital signs. They have the code, but no description. So in my channel, I am doing a lookup, getting the description, and populating that to go with the code, long code. I'm gonna copy one of those messages. I'm gonna send that through, and we should see those description populate here. So we can see it populated the description for all of these vital signs here. And it's also, very quick here. We're 50, 60 milliseconds to just process this message and populate all these values. And so it's, this might be something that you could have done using, your global map or channel global map. But, when you're working with those large data sets, you always have the concern about memory utilization in BridgeLink. But this, you really don't have to worry about that anymore. You specify kind of how much you want to store in memory, and then kind of limit the impact you have to memory usage in BridgeLink this way. And I'm going to do one more message here. I could show you another example. It has slightly different values, but I'm going to send that through. Similar here to just populate all of the OBX 3.2 description of the vital sign. Yep, here you can see they all populated. And finally, I am going to do a lookup of, this is another example of what I've seen from real world and public health reporting where some state will require the county code. So you have to have some type of lookup within BridgeLink or Mirth, and you have to figure out like where you want to store that lookup, if it should be on the file system or in a database or in memory. But now we have a dedicated kind of spot for this type of data. So showed earlier we have the zip to county code. So I am going to send a message through, and we should be able to see the county code populating here in PID 12. Send this through. There we go. We'll see that this input was zip code, and it's adding the PID 12, the county code. So that's it for the demo. Should we open up for questions, or should we go over to the spec generator?
Yeah, let's open up for questions. We scheduled a nice slot of time here. So with that, let's turn it over to the community with any questions that you might have. No questions? All right, cool. Then, yeah, go ahead, Daniel, with the spec generator now. Thank you.
All right. So we have over the last few months, we spent a little bit of time to come up with a way to take a set of HL7 messages and analyze them and try to determine, or kind of reverse engineer it into my HL7 specification. That's something that we found we needed ourselves in projects we worked on. It's also, we felt like it's kind of key to, if you wanted to kind of try to be more efficient or automate some of the channel development work, you kind of need to have a specification, and not just a specification, but a kind of a machine readable specification. So yeah, we have now a tool that can output or read through HL7 input messages and then generate like a JSON, a machine readable specification from it. So let me, if I can run it here. I actually run it recently. So yes, let me clear this out. So I'm gonna run this. I have a set of in ADT messages from a specific data source in a folder, and I'm gonna output specification into an output folder for it. So I'm gonna run that. But this has close to 8,000 messages. You don't necessarily need that many, but you probably want to have a good variety of messages, maybe 100 at least, to get an idea of what the various inputs are in the message. So it does spit out one for each message type and event type. So if you only want to look at like what the A11s are or the A04s, you could, but there's also a combined one where it covers all of the event types and message types. And now it's just ADT, so it's just going to be ADT. I can show you what one of the kind of machine readable one look like. So this is what the JSON file looks like. So it looks at each field in the message, how often was present, like the min length and max length of it. It we'll try to determine what kind of type of field it is, if it's a string or a number, etc. So we can see that some fields are static. This one, all of the values are the same in MSH6. It's not that unusual. Also, the MSH field tend to be static, except the message ID and the date time. So I know we'll go through all of the segments, and at the very end, it has some analysis about the segment sequence of the message. So here we can see the sequences, MSH, EVN, PID, P1.
Hey, Daniel.
Yeah.
Would you happen to have a copy of the PDF report?
Yeah.
One of these that you could show?
Yeah, I'm going to go over that as well.
Okay. All right.
And that might be a little bit easier. I can skip over that because the PDF is containing the same content, but in a little bit easier to read format. So open that up and make it a little bit bigger. So this is, it also outputs PDF report. And so this is initially a message type distribution. So we can see the distribution of the various event types. And this can be important to know what event types are sent, like if a source is sending merge messages or some unusual event types, if there's like a but yeah, it's a good way and see what percentage on this. Also seeing the segment sequence. So if, this highlights like which we've seen are repeating, we have a plus sign, which are optional, we'll have the brackets around them. So we can see like PD1 are present some messages, but not all. We can see AL1s are present and sometimes repeating, but it's optional, sometimes it's not there. So we can see the present summaries over, the 7,951 messages. Now there's 7,209 that have PD1. We had 26 that have an MRG segment. Yeah, we can see which ones are repeating here as well. And it will list all of the segments of the message. If it's a static field, display that in notes, and have the min, max length, trying to determine the type of data. And we can see if there's fields that have multiple values. Here's the distribution of them. So here's for gender is 53.3% male and 46.7% female. When there's more than 5 values, it will list them below in a table. So yeah, so this can be quite useful to see, what fields are being sent, what potentially the max length of a field is. If there's limitation, for example, of the receiving system, if you have to worry about that the data would cause issue if it's too long or not present, if you've had to default it. So it's going to go over all of the segments. And finally have these reference tables to see the values for specific fields. Where it's more than 5, it will list them in a reference table. So yeah, you can see, I think this is for race code. It's the race code description. This is the state. So a zip code, language, etc. It's going to have reference tables. These are providers. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else other than the reference tables. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the spec generator.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel. Any questions on spec generator? No questions? All right. So we'll continue. Thank you for your time, Daniel. I appreciate it. And we're going to move on with the rest of the call. Awesome. So let me share my screen again. So we got that piece done. And then I wanted to update everyone on some of the things going on with the releases. The last time we met, we had rolled out the .3 version as an answer to the issues with closing the source, and that was almost immediately done. I think we released on March 18th. As we talked about on the last community call, our focus was going to be on security updates. We learned that it had been several months since we did have those security updates, and so we thought it was good to focus on that initially, and that's what we did. And these are all on GitHub in our release notes with the .4 version that's since released. So these are the security updates with that. And as part of those security updates, we've got all the jar files here. That's in the release notes out there on GitHub and available to you to review. There's also hyperlinks so you can see the details on each one of these. Make sure you understood what we've got in the .4 version. And there are other things that were added as well, but I think these items were probably the highest priority for us and our highest focused area. All right, any questions on the security updates before we move on to the next slide? So as being part of the community, I want to acknowledge, we had acknowledged significant contributions. We had, for a number of years, pull requests with the original sponsor, more or less went unanswered. There was no responses. We rarely, I don't think there's very many that were actually contributed back into the open source Mirth Connect product. And so with that, we have our first contributor, and I want to highlight for the team and for our community the importance of this first contribution. There are 2 pull requests in 4.5.4 that Richard Ogan contributed. And so I wanted to acknowledge that effort by him and John Bartels and the other folks that helped to test that. And I want to say thank you to those folks. And we've actually incorporated that into the BridgeLink 4.5.4 version. And so thank you for that. We hope to get continued pull requests from the community. I would ask that you guys all, with being part of this call, you kind of evangelize that idea. We want to grow the product. We want to do these pull requests. I'd like to one day have triple digit 100 of these that instead of 2 we've got 100 on the screen. That's where we want to be. And but for the time being, thank you to Richard. We appreciate this, and if anyone knows him, I hope that you'd reach out and let him know that he was. I don't think he's on the call today, but let him know that we appreciate his efforts, and we will continue to take pull requests in from anybody that contributes, and we'll test them. It goes to the advisory board to make sure they're okay, and everyone gives it a thumbs up. They vote on them, but these will continue to be a part of our process. Any questions on pull request? Perfect. So next, we've got our next topic for today is acknowledgement of the technical advisory board. And so we have that board in place. It's important that everyone understand that these folks are made up from a number of companies, different areas, and international as well. And it was important to us that we bring those international folks in, and you know, we've got South America in here. We hope at some point in the coming days with an important announcement coming that we're going to include someone from Europe as well. And we'll continue to grow the technical advisory board. Want to thank the organizations that are on here, and also the individuals, and want to acknowledge them on this call to make sure that, and I saw Jack. Jack, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, and a lot of my team are here as well.
Great, awesome. So Jack's a member of the advisory board, and I think he's the one on the call today. And I want to say thank you for your time and efforts, and all the rest of the folks that weren't able to make, but I'm sure will watch this video in the coming days. We want to say thank you for this, and this is part of growing the community and part of what we're about. And we'll continue to do this, and we'll add more over the coming months as we help to develop our methodology, our governance structures, and have the community kind of drive forward with the BridgeLink product. So any questions on the folks? And I also was mentioning international, but also it's key to understand the representation and the types of folks that are on this advisory board. We pulled from academic. We've got a professor on here from University of Alabama, Birmingham, informatics. We've got HIEs on here. Brian Egan, one of the largest HIEs in the country, Health Information Exchange up in Syracuse. And then we've got other folks on here that represent various areas of clinical. And you know, Pablo down in South America is doing a lot with Mirth in there. I just had him on the phone last week. We're talking about some things. You know, he's bringing a lot to the table as well, from an experience and from what he's doing, particularly in the open source community. So we try to, and then Will Ross, I want to call out Will. I'm sure not on the call today, but Will has been in health information exchanges for 20 plus years. He's retired, but he brings a wealth of knowledge about open source and how to do health information exchange and how to do interop at scale. And so I wanted to bring Will in as well. So we appreciate these folks representing many different areas across our industry. So thank you to all those. Any questions on our board or any other comments on that topic? And then I wanted to go back to a previous slide that we did on a last call. So in our last update, which we're going to try to do quarterly updates moving forward, on the last one I think it was in April-ish timeframe, we talked about rolling out BridgeLink 4.5.3 and some of the things that we were doing. And then we had future plans. I want to be accountable to my community. And so that accountability comes with, you know, updates on where we are. And I want to make sure you guys understand that we're doing a lot of work. And so you can see here on our future plans from the last call in April, we had a lot to do, and we added the Dynamic Lookup Gateway into these plans after the call, and that was done too. And so we're doing a lot with the product. We're growing it, and I want to make sure that you guys understood that Innovar is accountable to our community as members, and also, you know, that is the culture and the perception that I want to make sure you guys understood, that we're very much accountable and very much want to make sure that we continue to hold each other accountable. So with that, that's the accountability slide. Any questions on that topic? And then lastly, we've got about 19 minutes to go. I wanted to highlight, to have one slide where we do an open source highlight. And so we've got a product out there, and we've had a significant number of downloads, but it's open source, and we released it some time ago. We've done some updates to it, and that's our channel history plugin. So some things we want to highlight about that. And you can go download it from GitHub. We don't need to do a demo because you can just go see it for yourself. It's a pretty basic plugin, but it has significant impacts particularly for larger organizations or organizations where you have multiple folks that are contributing to a Mirth Connect channel. I don't know about you guys, but for me personally, I've got many calls at 3 o'clock in the morning saying who changed this channel. You get called at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's the ER or it's the lab trying to send an order to the ER, and the channel's not working, and it's Friday night. All right, that's a scenario that I've been through, in previous lives and certainly at Innovar. So this channel answers that question of who changed, who's the last one to make the change. You can install this plugin. You can easily go into it from the Mirth Connect or BridgeLink UI, and you can see exactly who made the change to the channel, and you can see it across multiple instances, and it's installed as a plugin. The key here is it automatically syncs up, and that's a key differentiator. If you have a number of developers in your BridgeLink product and you want to sync all those up to a GitHub, that's fine. It'll do that. It'll do it automatically, and there's no real manual intervention. Once you configure it, you put the security in, you're done. And then it allows you also to see contributions from your team. So you can go back and log into your, if you're using cloud-based GitHub or Bitbucket or what have you, you can go in and see all the changes that were made by various folks and contributions, and even down to the logic. And then most importantly, answering that 3 a.m. call. And a lot of times we just want to fix it and get the lab orders out or whatever message that needs to be delivered. And so with that, you can revert problem logic on demand. But 3 o'clock in the morning, it's Saturday morning. I don't know who, I can see who changed it. They're on vacation now. What do I do? Well, I'm just going to put it back like it was. You right click, revert, and you can put it back like it was. You get your channel, you redeploy your channel, and you're up and working. And that's available to you now as an open source product. You can download it. I've got the GitHub out there, GitHub account. Just go to our Innovar Healthcare organization, and you can see that repo that's public. And feel free to download it, use it. We'd love to get your feedback on it. And also, back to the original thought from, a few minutes ago, we want pull requests. We want contributions on this. We'd love to get your thoughts on, and frankly, your contributions from a code standpoint, and not just code. There's other ways of doing that: methodology, documentation, help us with the release notes, what have you. There's many ways to contribute from as an open source, as a member of the open source community. So any questions on the channel history plugin, or questions in general from the community? All right, so we're going to take this recording, make it available on various platforms. If you have anything that comes up after this call's over, if you watch this and something pops up, you can email us at ossteam@innovarhealthcare.com. We appreciate everyone's time. We're going to try to do these once a quarter, so we'll see you again in the next quarter. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I appreciate everything. Bye-bye.